Imagine this. It's early morning, you're looking out your kitchen window, and the HOA president is calmly sliding a key into your front door like she owns the place. Before I tell you the whole mess, smash that like button, subscribe, and stay till the end because you'll want to hear how this plays out. 7 a.m. I'm staring through the glass as this woman turns the lock and walks right up to our house. The same neighbor who's been making everyone's life miserable for months has just decided to stroll into my home. I'm losing it because my wife is inside somewhere, and the woman at our door is smiling like she's finally proven a point. Then Tracy appears in the hallway clutching something that brings the intruder to an immediate halt. I had no clue my wife had that kind of presence. Have you ever had your HOA president try to barge into your home? Tell me your craziest neighbor story in the comments. Okay, rewind. I'm Justin Roberts. 6 months ago, Tracy and I thought we'd landed in the dream subdivision, Oakwood Heights. Little picket-style houses, picture-perfect lawns, a place where the biggest debate should be sprinkler schedules or paint shades. Turns out we picked the wrong kind of paradise. Right next door was someone who treated the HOA title like a coronation. At first, Kelly seemed friendly, all sunshine and welcome basket energy when we moved in. She handed us a huge binder of HOA rules that read like legalese for the overly earnest. We keep property values high by enforcing standards, she said. I figured that sounded reasonable. Big mistake. 3 days later, a violation notice appeared. Our mailbox was out of compliance by 2 inches. 2 inches. As a city safety inspector myself, I appreciate precision, but who measures mailboxes to the inch? Technically, she was right, so I adjusted it. New neighborhood, keep the peace. A week later, another ticket. Our trash can was out 12 hours early. Not days, not minutes, 12 hours. Apparently, that justified formal paperwork. I started to chalk it up to obsessive rule following. In hindsight, that was like calling a stalker friendly. So here I am watching this woman try key after key in our front door, muttering about access protocols as if she's on official business. Her keyring looks like an anchor, dozens of keys, each tagged with an address. My stomach drops when I realize she's been doing this elsewhere. Tracy joins me at the window and I can feel the tension. Not exactly fear, more of a laser focus, like she's cataloging everything. I tell her to call the police. She doesn't reach for the phone. Instead, she grabs her paralegal notebook and pen. She starts taking down times, the woman's behavior, descriptions, her handwriting fast and exact. Like she's handled situations like this before. Kelly gets frustrated when key number 8 fails and starts photographing our mailbox, driveway, steps, building her own dossier. The way she documents everything with clinical precision makes my skin crawl. I can't stand it any longer, so I step outside and make my presence known, loud enough for the neighbors to notice. Excuse me, Kelly. What are you doing? I called out. She spins around, caught off guard, but not embarrassed, just that entitled look that set me off. Emergency inspection protocol, she says, flashing the keyring like a badge. I need to verify interior compliance after documenting exterior violations. Exterior violations? I glance around our tidy yard. What violations? She rifles through papers on a clipboard, photos, measurements, official-looking forms, paint swatch codes, tiny spacing tolerances for drive positioning, every trivial thing presented as criminal. It's as though we're running a lab instead of a normal home. Kelly, you cannot come into our house, I tell her flatly. You don't have the right to try these keys on our lock. Oh, I have emergency access authority, she replies confidently. For a second, I wonder if HOA presidents secretly have powers I don't know about. That's when Tracy walks up beside me and the air changes. She's 5'6", and when she wants to be, she fills the space. Hi, Kelly, Tracy says, syrupy and sharp. Could you show me the documentation that grants you emergency access? For my records, Kelly stumbles, then recovers with a mantra about internal board procedures homeowners can't see. Tracy calmly pulls out her phone and starts recording. Actually, she says, state housing law requires transparency when an HOA claims authority over private property. I'll need to see board minutes, any insurance for entry activities, and the legal basis for this emergency designation. I stare. When did my wife become a housing law encyclopedia? She's a paralegal who usually handles corporate contracts, not HOA drama. But Kelly's face drains color, and suddenly she mutters something about homeowner interference and storms off, though not before slamming a formal notice on our porch demanding interior compliance verification within 48 hours. The letter looks official, letterhead, legal phrasing, but it reeks of overreach. That night, I'm lying awake thinking about the keyring and Tracy's sudden legal fluency when, around 11 p.m., someone is back at our door. Lock scratching. I shine my phone flashlight. Kelly is hunched over, working our lock again, this time with lockpicks, proper burglary tools. The woman who preaches community standards is trying to pick our lock in the dark. My hands were shaking as I woke. Tracy, she's back, I whisper. Tracy sits up immediately. No surprise, no confusion, like she half expected it. Call the police, she says, and start recording. As I dial 911, I keep thinking, why are we dealing with this? And why does my wife seem ready for it? The dispatcher sounds unconcerned until I mention someone working a lock at midnight. Is it a family member who lost their keys? She asks. I want to scream, no. Our neighbor doesn't carry a professional lockpick set and stage midnight break-ins. By the time I finish, Kelly has melted back into the shadows like a suburban ninja. This whole thing felt like a bad movie suburban noir with a clipboard-wielding villain. But what really unnerved me wasn't the break-ins. It was Tracy. She wasn't flustered or frantic. She moved like someone assembling evidence, taking notes, tracing scratches on the lock, inspecting the frame. She was building a case, not panicking. We need new locks first thing tomorrow, she said, running her finger over the fresh gouges. And we're installing cameras. Tracy, this is an HOA fight, not a home invasion. I protested. She looked at me with a look I'd never seen. All business, no jokes. Justin, that was attempted felony breaking and entering. This stopped being about mailbox angles a long time ago. Next morning, while a locksmith was fitting heavy-duty deadbolts, Kelly showed up again, this time with backup. A gruff guy in work clothes carrying a toolbox and a stack of papers that tried very hard to look official. She waved them like a warrant and started yammering about Emergency Structural Assessment Authority. The locksmith, sizing things up, shrugged to Tracy. Ma'am, she's paying me to change your locks for safety compliance. Says she has the authority. Tracy stepped forward and somehow seemed to grow taller. Sir, she said calmly, this woman has no legal right to alter locks on private property. If you go ahead, you're aiding criminal damage. I'm recording this, and I'll press charges if needed. The locksmith took one look at Tracy's face and his tools disappeared back into the box. Lady, I'm not getting arrested over HOA drama, he grumbled and started to pack up. Kelly went ballistic. You're interfering with official community duties. I have emergency powers. Show me the paperwork, Tracy challenged. Board minutes. Insurance authorizing property modifications. Any legal basis for this emergency claim, Kelly couldn't produce. A thing, nothing that proved she had the authority she kept shouting about. Instead of accepting defeat, Kelly doubled down with a cryptic, nasty little warning. Some people think they can outrun their past, she spat. But it always catches up. Her tone made my skin prickle. Suddenly it felt targeted, Like we weren't just the next house on a checklist, we were chosen. Have we met before? I asked, trying to pin down why she knew things about us. Her face chilled. You know exactly what you did. Some families never recover from vindictive enforcement actions. Before I could get another word out, a squad car rolled up. The officer who stepped out looked tired and familiar with the scene. He recognized Kelly, or more precisely, he called her by a different name. Mrs. Phillips, we talked about this last week, he said. Phillips? I repeated, squinting at his name tag. Officer Parker. Thanks for coming. Officer Parker's discomfort was obvious. He seemed torn. Is this another property access complaint? He asked, and Tracy's tone instantly sharpened. How many times has Mrs. Phillips falsely asserted authority to enter private property? She demanded. Parker shifted, caught between duty and something personal. I can't discuss ongoing investigations, he said carefully, but Mrs. Phillips has no legal right to enter private homes or change locks. Kelly sputtered in outrage, calling on him to support community safety. Then she said his name, David, in a way that made everything click. I asked slowly, Are you two related? The silence stretched, and then Parker answered, stiffly, Mrs. Phillips is my wife. The plot twist landed like a punch. Kelly had been leaning on a marriage to a cop to bully neighbors, and now her husband was publicly disowning her authority. Her face cycled through shock, shame, and fury. Fine, she snarled. Formal violation procedures will commence. You have 72 hours to comply or face legal action. She stormed off, leaving Officer Parker standing in our driveway looking mortified. Sir, I'm sorry, he said awkwardly. My wife gets carried away with HOA duties. Sometimes she oversteps. Sometimes? Tracy repeated coldly. She tried to break into our house last night. Parker winced. If you want to file charges, we'll look into it. After he left, I cornered Tracy. Okay, what's going on? You're acting like you know things I don't. She stared at the new lock for a long moment. I've been digging into her background since we moved in. Something about Kelly's history doesn't add up. What have you found? Public records, credit reports, employment history, nothing. She moved here 18 months ago, but there's almost no trace of her before that. No steady credit record, no social media, no verifiable job history. It's like she appeared out of nowhere and invented an identity. My stomach dropped. You think she's using an alias? Tracy didn't hesitate. Yes, and I think she has something in her past that's driving this vendetta. Before I could unpack that, her phone buzzed. She read the message and all color drained from her face. Justin, we have a problem. I looked out the window. Kelly was back on our property, this time in the backyard with a stranger. They had professional cameras, laser measuring tools, and clipboards. They weren't just snooping. They were surveying, documenting, prepping. Call the police. I said. Tracy had already started dialing, but she also grabbed her laptop and a stack of files I'd never seen before. There's more, she said, fingers flying across the keyboard as she pulled up whatever she'd hoarded in her research. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your safety inspection ruined my family. Now I'll ruin yours. I showed it to Tracy. She went white. Oh my God, I think I know who she really is. Later that night, at 3 a.m., the sound of power tools thudding in the driveway jolted me awake. This wasn't a neighbor's late-night project. It was industrial-grade noise, like someone was trying to remodel our front door in the dark. Tracy was already awake, watching through the blinds with a look of icy focus. She brought a locksmith, she said, voice steady. I peered out and saw Kelly orchestrating what looked like a full-on operation. The locksmith had heavy equipment. Kelly had a folder stuffed with documents. They treated our entry like it was theirs to alter. Call the police, Ben, I said, but Tracy was already moving. Not to dial, to get evidence. She threw on clothes, grabbed her laptop bag, and we went outside just as Kelly looked up at us. Instead of shame, Kelly had a smug, righteous posture and announced, "Emergency access modification for community safety compliance." These locks don't meet standards. The locksmith gave the same lame line. She paid me to upgrade for insurance reasons. Tracy walked up to him and transformed into something else entirely. "Sir, she has no authority to do this. If you proceed, you'll be committing criminal destruction of property." I'm recording this for legal purposes. She pulled out her phone and hit record. The locksmith's face went pale again as he realized he was on the wrong side of a very prepared homeowner. This whole thing felt like a cheap thriller, suburban streets, a clipboard-wielding villain, and me stuck in the audience. But it wasn't the break-ins that chilled me most. It was Tracy. She didn't freak out. She methodically collected evidence, jotting notes, tracing the fresh gouges on the lock, testing the frame. She wasn't panicking. She was building a dossier. "We're changing the locks tomorrow," she said, fingertip following the scratch marks. "And we're installing cameras. Tracy, this is an HOA spat, not a home invasion." I said, She fixed me with a look I'd never seen before, dead serious, all business. "Justin, that was attempted breaking and entering." This crossed the line. The very next morning, as a locksmith bolted on new deadbolts, Kelly returned with backup. A burly guy in work clothes, toolbox in hand, and Kelly brandishing more paperwork that tried desperately to look legit. She loudly announced some emergency structural assessment authority. The locksmith shrugged to Tracy. "Ma'am, she's paying me to swap your locks. Says it's for compliance." Tracy stepped up and somehow seemed to tower. Calm, steady. "Sir, she has no legal authority to modify a homeowner's locks. If you proceed, you'll be aiding criminal property damage." I'm recording this. That was all it took. The locksmith packed up. "Lady, I'm not getting arrested for HOA nonsense," he muttered as he left. Kelly erupted. "You're interfering with community duties." "I have emergency powers." "Show us the paperwork," Tracy replied. "Board minutes. Homeowner consents. Insurance authorizing property changes." Kelly had nothing. Not a single document that supported her claims. Instead of conceding, she went venomous, personal, hateful. "You think you can run from your past," she spat. "You think nobody remembers the families you ruined." My blood went cold. She wasn't just railing about code violations. She was naming names. "You remember Tommy?" She sneered, syrupy and cruel. "Tommy Patterson. The man your inspection put away. You destroyed him." The name hit like a freight train. I remembered the contractor I'd cited for dangerous violations years ago, the one who'd screamed that I was out to ruin him. "Tommy died?" I asked, stunned. Kelly's eyes were ice. "Prison fight. 6 months after you had him sent away. He was trying to feed his family and you crushed him." Tracy gripped my arm, tense. She knew something about that case I didn't. Kelly kept goading, reciting twisted versions of events until a patrol car pulled into the street. The officer who stepped out wore the weary expression of someone who'd handled this before. He called Kelly by another name, Mrs. Phillips, and it became painfully clear why he was familiar. "Mrs. Phillips, we spoke last week," he said. "Officer Parker," I said, reading his badge. The moment his name came out, everything shifted. Kelly's demeanor faltered. The officer looked like he was caught between his badge and a very personal problem. "Is this another property access complaint?" he asked. "How many times has Mrs. Phillips falsely asserted authority to enter private homes?" Tracy demanded. Parker hesitated, then replied carefully, "I can't discuss investigations, But Mrs. Phillips does not have the legal right to enter or modify private property. Kelly cried foul, calling on him to support community safety, and then, in a tone loaded with entitlement, she said his first name. David. She meant to shame him into backing her up. Instead, the silence stretched until Parker admitted stiffly, "Mrs. Phillips is my wife." It landed like a bomb. Kelly had been leveraging a spousal connection to intimidate neighbors, and now her husband was standing there, publicly contradicting her. Her face flickered through shock, humiliation, then pure fury. "Fine," she snarled. "Formal violations. You've got 72 hours to comply." She stormed off, leaving Officer Parker looking embarrassed and apologetic. "Sir, I'm sorry about this," he said, avoiding eye contact. "She takes HOA duties too far sometimes." "Sometimes?" Tracy echoed. "She tried to break into our home last night." Parker winced. "If you want to press charges, we'll investigate." After he left, I demanded answers. "What else do you know? You've been acting like you've been doing this forever." Tracy stared at the new lock a long time. "I've been digging into her background since we moved in." "Something's off. What did you find?" "Public records, credit, employment history, almost nothing. She bought the house 18 months ago with cash, no mortgage, no trace before then. No steady credit, no job records, barely an online presence. It's like she popped into existence as Mrs. Phillips. The thought that she might be using an alias chilled me." Before I could press, Tracy's phone buzzed. She read the message and paled. "Justin. She's back. Outside in our backyard." Kelly and an unknown man were taking professional photos and measurements, laser tools, DSLR, the whole setup. They weren't nosing around. They were compiling evidence. "Call the police," I said. Tracy was already dialing, but she also grabbed a laptop and folders I'd never seen. "There's more," she said, fingers flying as she pulled all the files she'd been building. Then my phone dinged with a text from an unknown number. "Your safety inspection ruined my family. Now I'll ruin yours." Her face went white. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I think I know who she really is." Hours later, at 3 a.m., waking to the roar of power tools felt like a nightmare. This wasn't casual tinkering. It was a full-on attempt to modify our entry in the dead of night. Tracy was already awake, watching with an expression I'd only seen in prosecutors. "She brought a locksmith," she said flatly. Peering out, I saw Kelly directing a crew. They had industrial gear. She had pages of documents. It was an operation. "Call the police, Ben," I said. But Tracy was already moving, not to call, but to capture everything. She threw on clothes, grabbed her bag, and we stepped outside as Kelly announced, loud and theatrical, "Emergency access modification for community safety. These locks are non-compliant." The locksmith offered his same tired line. "She's paying me to upgrade insurance reasons." Tracy walked up, phone recording. "You have no authority. If you go through with this, you're committing criminal property damage." I'm recording. The locksmith packed up, hairline retreating. "How did you get bank records?" I blurted. Tracy's fingers hovered over the keyboard for a beat. "Public record searches reveal a lot if you know where to look," she said. But neither of us believed that was the whole story. Before I could press her, she pulled up something that chilled me. Months' worth of photographs of our house taken from every angle, like surveillance-grade shots. Tracy kept talking. She'd mapped our routines, my work schedule, hers, when we ran errands, when we had guests. She knew more about our comings and goings than anyone in our family did. I watched picture after picture of myself leaving for work, coming home, taking out the trash. I hadn't noticed any of it. "This isn't random obsession," Tracy said quietly. "It's targeted, deliberate revenge. Then she opened files I'd assumed were safe in the city database, the old case records. Suddenly the pieces snapped into place. Tommy Patterson wasn't just a sloppy contractor. He ran a systematic fraud scheme, substandard materials, forged certifications, bribed inspectors. My report hadn't been petty bureaucracy, it exposed organized construction fraud that endangered workers. The building collapsed during construction, I said, the memory coming back. Workers were hurt some badly, Tracy nodded. 3 injured, 2 permanently disabled. If anyone had died, manslaughter charges were possible. Your inspection likely prevented worse, but to Kelly, none of that mattered. In her eyes, I was the bureaucrat who ruined her brother's life. Facts were irrelevant. Only the loss mattered. As if on cue, Tracy's phone buzzed. She stepped away to take the call. When she came back, her face had gone hard and professional. "That was Ran," she said. "Kelly's filed complaints with the city, accusing you of abusing your authority in the Patterson case. She's retained counsel and is threatening to sue for harassment." The idea made my chest tighten. Even spurious claims could cost a fortune to fight and damage my career. Kelly was weaponizing the system, using my profession against me. "There's more," Tracy added. "Ran checked federal databases. Kelly is connected to other defendants from the Patterson case, contractors and associates, also charged with fraud. She's not acting alone. There are people backing her who want revenge." The reality hit like a freight train. This wasn't a nosy neighbor. It was an organized campaign to obliterate my life and reputation, with Kelly as the visible face. Tracy closed her laptop and stared at me with a look I'd never seen collected, official. "Justin, there's something I need to tell you about my work," she began. But before she could finish, our security app lit up. Multiple figures were moving across our property, professional gear, not amateur snoops. "They brought company," I said, watching camera feeds. Tracy was already grabbing folders. "Call Officer Parker. We need immediate backup for criminal trespass." I asked the question I'd been holding back. "Tracy, what else haven't you told me about your work?" She hesitated at the door, and for a single second I saw something like regret. "I've been coordinating with federal investigators. Kelly's pattern of harassment matches other interstate cases: stalking, organized intimidation aimed at law enforcement and safety officials. Inspectors count as law enforcement, Justin. What she's doing to us, she's done to families in other states." My phone buzzed. A new text. "Final compliance inspection. 8 a.m. tomorrow. Bring property transfer documents. Non-negotiable. She wanted us to sign our home away. Tracy read the message and nodded. "Tomorrow is the end game," she said, voice flat. "I need you to trust me." "Trust what?" I asked, but her expression was icy businesslike in a way that made me realize she'd been balancing 2 lives: the woman I married and a professional who'd been quietly building a case. She closed her laptop with a firm snap. 8 a.m. sharp the next morning. Kelly returned with a team 6 people carrying official-looking equipment, moving in formation across our front lawn. This time she walked straight to our door with the certainty of someone who expected to win. From the kitchen window, my heart thudded as I watched her pull out a new, shiny key, one cut perfectly for our lock. Apparently, she'd copied the code before Officer Parker stopped her the last time. I called out for Tracy, but the house felt oddly empty. 10 minutes earlier, she'd been in the kitchen, making coffee. Now there was only the hollow silence of a home under siege. Kelly held the key up like a trophy, her crew fanning out as if braced for a fight. She slid it into the lock. It turned without resistance. After weeks of failure, she finally had access. The door swung wide and Kelly crossed the threshold, triumphant, clipboard in hand, camera at the ready, expecting us to crumble. Instead, from down the hallway, Tracy appeared, walking straight toward the front door, something clutched in her hands, not running, not panicking, just walking with the calm confidence of someone who's been expecting this exact moment. And what she's holding makes Kelly freeze like someone hit her with a stun gun. It's an official document. Federal letterhead, multiple signatures, the kind of paperwork that means business. Kelly's eyes lock onto it, and I watch her brain try to process what she's seeing. The confident smile melts into confusion. Then confusion melts into something approaching terror. "Kelly Patterson?" Tracy says, her voice steady and professional in a way I've never heard before. "This is your arrest warrant." Kelly's response is the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. Complete system shutdown. Her body locks mid-stride, 1 foot inside our house, 1 foot still on the threshold. The clipboard drops from her hands and clatters on our hardwood floor. Her mouth opens like she's going to speak, but no sound comes out. 15 seconds. I count them. 15 seconds of pure human statue standing in our doorway like someone paused a video. Her eyes dart frantically between Tracy's face and the warrant in her hands, trying to understand how her moment of triumph turned into her moment of complete defeat. "Arrest warrant," Kelly finally whispers, and her voice sounds like it's coming from underwater. "You're just a paralegal." "You can't." "Actually, I can," Tracy says, stepping closer to Thefferson woman in our doorway. "Kelly Patterson, you're under arrest for criminal harassment, stalking, conspiracy to commit fraud, and interstate intimidation of federal witnesses." Federal witnesses. My head spins. Tracy called me a federal witness. Kelly's key collection tumbles from her other hand, scattering across her floor like metallic confetti. Dozens of keys, each tagged with a different address, each representing Anna Thurfamley Kelly's been terrorizing. The sound echoes through our house like justice being served 1 key at a time. That's when Officer Parker appears behind Kelly, but he's not alone. 2 other cops I don't recognize, and they're all wearing expressions of people who've been waiting for this moment as long as we have. "Ma'am," Parker says quietly. And his voice carries the weight off Simeon, who's had to watch his wife spiral into criminal behavior. "You have the right to remain silent." Kelly's crew scattered the moment they saw the badges. Professional criminals know when to run, and they're probably 3 counties away by now. But Kelly's still frozen in our doorway, staring at Tracy like she's seeing a ghost. "Federal witnesses." Kelly's voice is barely audible. "What? Federal witnesses?" Tracy holds up the warrant so Kelly can see every official signature, every legal seal that makes this moment real. Justin's safety inspection didn't just expose Tommy's fraud, Kelly. It exposed a multi-state construction fraud network. The FBI has been investigating for 3 years. The color drains from Kelly's face as the pieces fall into place. "You're not a paralegal." "I'm a federal investigator," Tracy says calmly, "and I've been building a case against your organization since before we moved to this neighborhood." My brain feels like it's short-circuiting. My wife is a federal investigator. Our marriage, our house, our entire life here. How much of it was real? Kelly's legs give out and she sinks to her knees right there in our doorway. The woman who's been terrorizing us for months, who broke into our house with criminal confidence, is now sobbing on our threshold while the neighbors emerge from their houses to watch the show. "Tommy died because of your vindictive report," she screams. And it's the desperate cry of someone who's built their entire identity around a lie. Tracy's voice stays steady, professional, but I can hear the emotion underneath. Tommy died because he chose to commit crimes that endanger innocent people. Justin's report saved lives. Kelly. 12 construction workers would have been killed if that building had been completed. With Tommy's substandard materials. Officer Parker approaches with handcuffs, moving slowly like he's giving Kelly time to accept what's happening. "Kelly, please stand up." Don't make this harder than it has to be. But Kelly's not done. Even with handcuffs clicking around her wrists, even with her entire revenge schema collapsing around her, she looks directly at me with pure hatred. You destroyed my family, she snarls. Everything I had, everything Tommy built. Gone because you couldn't mind your own business. Tracy steps between us and her voice cuts like a blade. Your brother endangered innocent lives for profit. Justin protected those lives by doing his job. The only person who destroyed your family was Tommy when he chose to become a criminal. As Officer Parker leads Kelly toward his patrol car, neighbors start appearing with phones, recording everything. Our HOA president's arrest is going to be a neighborhood legend within hours. But all I can think about is Tracy's revelation. My wife is a federal investigator. How much of our life together has been a lie? 3 days after Kelly's arrest, I woke up to my phone exploding with notifications. Not good notifications. The kind that makes your stomach drop before you're even fully conscious. News alerts, missed calls from my supervisor, text messages from coworkers asking if I'm okay. Something's gone horribly, catastrophically wrong. Tracy's all red up, pacing our bedroom with her phone pressed to her ear, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. When she sees I'm awake, her face goes pale. I have to call you back, she says, ending her conversation. What's happening? I ask, but I already know it's bad from the way she's looking at me. Kelly's lawyer released evidence, Tracy says quietly. Audio recordings of you threatening Tommy Patterson before you filed your safety report. My blood turns to ice water. What recordings? I never threatened Tommy Patterson. Tracy hands me her laptop and I see the headline that's going to destroy my life. City Safety Inspector's personnel vendetta led to contractor's death in prison. Below it, there's an audio player with a file labeled Justin Roberts threatening Tommy Patterson. I click play and my own voice fills the room, clear as day, unmistakably me, saying things that make me sound like a vindictive psychopath. You think you can get away with this nonsense forever. Patterson, I'm going to make sure you lose everything. Your business, your reputation, your freedom. You crossed the wrong guy. The recording continues with Tommy's voice, scared and defensive, begging me to just let him fix the violations. Then my voice again, cold and threatening. Too late for that. I'm filing criminal charges, and I'm going to make sure the DI throws the book at you. This is personal now. I stare at the laptop screen in complete shock. Tracy, I never said any of this. I never had this conversation. But even as I'm saying it, doubt creeps in. The voice is mine. The inflection, the accent, even the way I clear my throat, it's definitely me. Could I have forgotten? Was I really that angry during the Patterson case? Trace watching my face carefully. Justin, do you remember having any personal interactions with Tommy Patterson outside of the official inspection? No, I mean maybe brief conversations, but nothing like this. I was professional. I'm always professional. My phone rings. It's my supervisor. This is not going to be a friendly chat. Roberts, his voice is ice cold. My office now. The drive to City Hall feels like driving to my own execution. By the time I pull up to City Hall, reporters have already set up outside. Someone leaked my name, my photo, probably our address. The headline on every feed screams, "Corrupt safety inspector uses government power for personal revenge." My supervisor, Bill Martinez, looks 10 years older in an instant. Justin, you need to explain this, he says, replaying the audio in his office. Hearing my voice through his speakers makes it sound worse, vindictive, cruel, utterly unprofessional. Voice analysis shows a 98% match, and the timestamp lines up with your initial violation report, he adds, sliding a report across the desk. Effective immediately, You're suspended without pay pending an investigation. Internal affairs and police are involved. There may be criminal charges. My career, 20 years of spotless record, hundreds of inspections that saved lives, feels like it's collapsing beneath me. I drive home in a daze and find reporters camped outside our house, neighbors whispering and pointing, someone spray painting "corrupt cop" on our mailbox. The neighborhood treats me like a pariah. Tracy is inside when I get home. The way she looks at me breaks me more than any headline. Not outright accusation, but doubt. "Justin," she says carefully, "is there any chance you had a confrontation with Tommy Patterson you don't remember?" I answer as firmly as I can, but the words feel thin. No, I was professional. I always am. News outlets pick up the story nationwide, and social media boils over. My face is paired with Tommy Patterson's mugshot and captions that accuse me of ruining a man's life. The worst part is doubt creeping into my own mind. The recording sounds so convincing. Could I have been that brutal and truly forgotten it? By evening, our house is under siege. Reporters at the door, angry voicemails, neighbors avoiding eye contact. Someone hurls a brick through our front window with a note, "Justice for Tommy Patterson." Tracy boards up the glass while I sit at the kitchen table, staring at my reflection in the dark monitor and wondering who I really am. Tracy sits next to me, torn between support and the weight of evidence. "Even if you said harsh things," she says, "the violations were real. People were hurt." Her voice tries to comfort, but it sounds like she's convincing herself as much as me. Then a new text arrives. "Now you know how it feels to lose everything. Tommy's justice is served." I show it to Tracy. She nods, grim. Kelly's lawyer is orchestrating a media campaign, and it's working. I can feel my certainty slipping. "Justin," Tracy tells me finally, "there's something about my investigation I haven't shared." She picks up her phone and disappears into the bedroom. 2 hours later, I can hear her through the door, talking in clipped technical terms: authentication analysis, digital forensics, federal evidence protocols. She's not on the phone with paralegals. She's on the line with people who can do the heavy technical work. When she comes back, her face is a mix of relief and something darker. She tells me to sit down. Then she says it plainly. "My name is Tracy Williams. I'm a federal investigator on the Construction Fraud Task Force. I've been working Tommy Patterson's network for 4 years. I was assigned to your protection after his arrest." The revelation lands like a punch. Our marriage, the past 8 months, feels suddenly fragile. She explains she started as an assignment, but it became real. She fell in love and requested a permanent posting. My life had been, in part, a protective operation. Then she shows me what their forensics found. The audio clips being used against me, the ones that have obliterated my reputation, are fabrications. Kelly's network has been manufacturing evidence for years using voice synthesis, deepfake audio, and digital tampering sophisticated enough to fool ordinary tests. Tracy's team ran advanced authentication. The voice matches, but the waveform metadata and frequency analysis show splicing and reconstruction from multiple public recordings of me. In short, the clips were engineered. Relief floods me, but it mixes quickly with betrayal. 4 years, 3 years of surveillance, and a year of direct contact. Tracy admits. "You were supposed to be an assignment," she says quietly, "but you became my life." I ask, voice breaking, how much of what we had was real. She answers with fierce honesty. Every moment was real. Every date, every conversation, every "I love you," all of it. She looked me in the eye and said the only thing that wasn't a lie. Her feelings for me were real. Then her phone rang. The expression on her face snapped to business mode. "This is about Kelly's network." "I have to take it," she said, and was gone into the kitchen, leaving me trying to swallow that revelation. My wife had been my federal protector all along. When she came back, her face carried a look I'd never seen, clinical satisfaction. Kelly's lawyer just got our technical analysis, she announced. He's pulling the media claims and asking to negotiate a plea. It meant the truth was about to surface. Tommy Patterson wasn't a small-time cheat. He'd run a sprawling fraud operation across 6 states. Shoddy materials, forged certificates, bribed inspectors. My inspection hadn't been a personal vendetta. It had exposed a criminal enterprise that put workers' lives at risk. Tracy opened FBI files and showed me sites, schematics, and reports, buildings that would have collapsed, crews that would have been killed if someone hadn't caught the violations. Tracy didn't stop there. Kelly wasn't just his sister, she said. She was his partner in the business side, insurance scams, political payoffs, and a campaign to intimidate inspectors. My head spun. According to what she'd uncovered, Kelly Patterson Phillips had run the racket for nearly a decade. After my report disrupted their operation, she set about destroying every official who had played a role in the conviction. We weren't the first target, we were the latest. How many? I asked. 12 inspectors, Tracy said. The number hit like a freight train. 7 families forced out of their homes. 4 ruined careers. 2 divorces. 1 suicide. The scale of it made me feel small and furious at once. Kelly's campaign had been systematic and savage. Then the story flipped. The news ticker on Tracy's laptop updated. Federal task force breaks multi-state construction fraud ring. My name was in the headline, not as a villain this time, but as the inspector whose integrity helped expose organized crime. By tomorrow, Tracy said, eyes on the screen, you'll be known for helping bring them down. Vindication should have felt liberating. Instead, I found myself staring at the woman beside me, the woman who'd lived a dual life for months. What now? I asked. Do you get reassigned? Do we go back to being a normal married couple? She met me with a vulnerability that felt almost like a plea. I asked to transfer permanently to the local field office, she said. If you'll have me, if you can forgive the deception, I want to be Tracy Roberts for real. Not the agent on assignment. Just your wife. Before I could answer, Officer Parker knocked. This time he wasn't there about Kelly. Sir, ma'am, he said, eyes sincere, I wanted to apologize for my wife's actions and to thank you for your help. The neighborhood owes you both. As he drove off, I realized our lives were irreversibly changed. Arrest, federal probe, media vindication, a messy kind of heroism we hadn't asked for. 6 months later, I stood in the Rose Garden, a suit that cost more than my car, listening to the President of the United States commend me for public integrity. Construction workers whose lives had been saved, FBI agents from Tracy's task force, families of other inspectors, and Tracy in the front row wearing her real badge, Agent Tracy Williams of the Federal Construction Fraud Task Force. She'd spent 8 months protecting me while pretending to be someone else. We had many painful conversations afterward about secrecy, trust, and whether love survives when it's built on professional necessity. We even did couples therapy with a counselor who had federal clearance. Learning to trust someone who deliberately lied to you for your safety is a strange and slow process. At the ceremony, the president said, "Today we honor those whose courage and integrity helped expose one of the largest construction fraud conspiracies in our history." The investigation revealed staggering numbers. Kelly Patterson Phillips received a 25-year federal sentence with no parole. Her network stretched across 12 states and involved 43 contractors who pocketed an estimated $60 million while endangering thousands of workers. The records showed 12 inspectors targeted for revenge, 7 families driven from their homes, and 2 inspectors who tragically took their own lives under the pressure of Kelly's campaign. I was lucky. I had Tracy watching my back before I even knew I needed it. The medals and speeches were surreal, but they meant something. The work mattered, lives were saved, and justice was done. She watched me as the president praised integrity, pride, relief, and something deeper flickering across her face. Part federal agent, part wife. Tracy carried both roles into that moment, and I could see how proud she was in each. Officer Parker sat nearby with his new partner, his divorce final, his loyalty to the badge intact. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you everything you thought you wanted, and gives you what you actually need. When the president called my name, I walked forward on legs that felt like jelly. The medal was heavier than it looked, engraved with words about service and integrity. The president leaned in and whispered, "Your country thanks you." Courage? I wasn't sure I felt it. I'd just done my job and fallen into something much bigger. Tracy looked at me then and said what courage really was. Ordinary people choosing what's right when it's hard. After the ceremony, we drove back to Oakwood Heights to a block party the neighbors had thrown in our honor. The same streets that earlier turned against us were now full of people thanking us. Grilled burgers, kids with sparklers, homemade cookies, and neighbors competing to shake our hands. It felt strange and wonderful all at once. The real victory, though, wasn't the speeches or the party. It was the stack of letters on our kitchen table from construction workers whose lives were saved because the Patterson network was exposed. 12 workers would have died on those sites if the fraud had continued. Families still whole because someone did the job right. That's the thing that mattered. Tracy's transfer to the local federal office was approved. She got to be both Agent Tracy Williams and my wife. I was promoted to Regional Safety Director, overseeing inspections across 3 states. Kelly's master key collection now sits in the Federal Law Enforcement Museum as a cautionary exhibit. The tools of harassment turned into a lesson about protecting civil liberties. We had to rebuild trust. There were long talks, therapy sessions with a counselor cleared for our case, and awkward adjustments to normal life. But Tracy hadn't pretended to love me. She'd just hidden her badge until it was safe to reveal it. She chose me. That choice made all the difference. 5 years later, we're still here. Same house, same porch, same neighborhood rhythms. Our security cameras show delivery trucks, kids on bikes, and the mail carrier who knows our names. The construction industry changed. Stricter training, whistleblower protections, and federal oversight reduced the chances that something like the Patterson network could happen again. Justice didn't erase everything that happened, but it did make things right where it counted. Kelly Patterson Phillips was sentenced to 25 years. Her network spanned a dozen states, involved dozens of contractors, and stole millions while endangering lives. Some people lost everything resisting her campaign of revenge. Others survived because honest work stopped the harm. If there's one thing I learned, it's this: doing your job, doing it well, can change lives. Sometimes the world rewards that in unexpected ways. Sometimes the best form of revenge is letting the tools of oppression become museum pieces, reminders of why rights and rules matter. I'm Justin from Listen HOA Stories. If this tale hit a nerve, if you've survived HOA nightmares or neighbor drama of your own, share your experience in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride, and subscribe to Listen HOA Stories so you don't miss the next wild episode proving that truth is often stranger than fiction. Thanks for watching. Keep your doors locked, your neighbors honest, and I'll see you in the next story.